So basically, my solutions for this is accountability has to be the first things. At the moment, there is no true accountability for organizations. The most accountable thing really is if open letters are written by artists who have a platform and are supported by other communities, and then they kind of get shamed into doing the right thing. But again, it only works if you've got good clout as an artist and already a big reputation, but also it means that the organizations are doing it on the surface because it's about how they want to be perceived, rather than a deep cultural yearning to be treating artists with respect and being kind of respecting, you know, artists and want it to be healthy. And those two things are going to be very different if you're working with an organization that wants to perceive a certain way, and if you're working with an organization who passionately is just doing the right thing. But yeah, so what I would say is that I feel like we need a standard that everyone agrees to, right? And I know different organizations like Artists Union kind of have their kind of, you know, their main points, and there's loads of different ones, but there needs to be an agreed one, kind of like fair trade, right? Where we all say artists should be treated this way. There should be this kind of things for any kind of conflict resolution or complaints procedure. It should be done this way. There should be some sort of accountability where there are, you know, independent people looking at disputes between organizations to be able to say, actually, no, mate, you've done it right or wrong or whatever, but something that's reasonable. So sometimes artists can be in the wrong, you know, we all can, but we need something realistic that we can trust and say, right, you know, let's take this. If this hasn't been worked in the right way, we can take it to someone to actually do it properly, and that to be a clear, accessible process. But yeah, pay, all of those things should be agreed under a kind of fair trade standard. And everyone understands in the arts that if you operate beneath that standard, then it's not going to be sustainable for any artist you agree with, you are working with, and ultimately it's going to be exploitative, right? So we can all agree on that. And then we hold ourselves to that, you know? So you have to have your kind of accreditation, whether that's fair trade or whatever you have. And all organizations need to have this stamp, right? And they get inspected. And, you know, I think we also need surveys. So you have a kind of questionnaire or a survey for an artist before you work with them. So you can genuinely understand what they think this is about, what this means to them at this point in their career, what they want to get out of this, you know, because when you start with an organization, or at least me, I say very clearly where my ambitions are, where this fits into my career trajectory, or what I want this project to do. But then a million years down the line, and that hasn't been done, and the project slowly morphs into something that you ultimately didn't agree for it to be. Not only like, I want this to be a film, but what you want it to do in your career. Do you know what I mean? Like what it needs to be a step change, or it needs to be better than X, Y, or Z. And so you have that to reflect on. And then in the middle of a project, you have a feedback session again, which could be a survey or some sort of feedback session, to say, how is it going? A check-in. Do you know what I mean? How are things going for you? What's happening? Because a lot of my experience with organizations is they don't ask, so they don't know. So, you know, they can genuinely say, well, you never told us, but how are you, like, what are the routes for feedback? There should be a check-in. You should be caring about how this is going. You should be checking in on your artists and finding out how this is feeling for them, if they're struggling with anything, if anything's going right or not, or whatever. And then at the end of a project as well. And this sounds maybe involved or whatever, but at the end of the day, you check in with people and you want something that is measurable, that everyone can say, this is what I thought. And this is, you know, marks the kind of journey of a project. Some projects go on for years, you know, and everyone forgets, kind of, they get caught up in it and whatever. So it keeps you on the line and keeps you checking in. Also, what I feel that we need, again, I don't know exactly how this is going to work, but any organizations or people that are interested in these kind of conversations, please reach out. I would love to contribute and spitball as to how we can do this. But I feel like we need a website like Checkatrade or TripAdvisor for people in the arts. And when an artist works with an organization, right, there is a multiple of questions. You rate them out of a certain amount of stars, so it's simple. So with regards to pay or treatment or equality or all deliverables or all of these things, And because I'm not going to experience the same organization that someone else is going to experience, right? Because I'm a black man. If you're a white woman, if you're disabled, of whatever, you activate different things in that space, right? And so we need a kind of, rating system that we can see in the arts. And if people have problems and the organizations don't want to deal with them, other artists can be warned. Because I would feel uncomfortable now not having artists know what I've gone through with this organization, because for some artists can break them, like psychologically, when you're working with organizations and the pay and the delays and these projects go on, it really takes a toll on your mental health. And so there needs to be some sort of warnings for people to know what they're getting into, and we all kind of owe that to each other. And then it's great for the organization because you can always give them the benefit of the doubt. You've got directors, you've got curators, you've got all these people, you've got front of house staff, and all of them contribute to the end experience of an artist, right? And so some directors or the board, they might be blind. There might be blind spots that they don't actually know about. So at least they're then able to access feedback as to what is actually happening on the end experience with their organization, and be able to, maybe there's some issues that they didn't realize they had, or maybe they'll be able to plug some gaps. But it allows that transparency that we need in the arts. And also what it allows is organizations who are incredible at this, who it is truly the center of their ethos, because there are some that I've worked with who are incredible. It allows them to shine, right? Because some of those organizations who are absolutely incredible, they might not get MPO, or they might not get something else, because that's not really taken into consideration as to how they're, what they're contributing to the wellness of artists. There's no real way to measure it at the moment that can be, helping them get more funding to do more of that, which for me is one of the single most important missions right now in the arts, which is to create a more healthy environment for the creators of art, right? And everyone in the arts ultimately. So a platform like this would allow people to actually be celebrated, organizations to be celebrated, the ones who are doing it, those quiet little ones who are just, putting their money where their mouth is and doing the right work. And yeah, I feel like something like that would be really important to do. I know it's probably logistically a bit of a nightmare to set up, but ultimately once it's going and it becomes a cultural kind of, use, oh, this organization reached out to me, great, I'm going to go check them up and see what other artists are saying about them, what their experiences are. If I know that I'm really, sensitive to X issue, and then I see a space that, other artists have worked there, and they say, yeah, I've been raising these problems, but actually they've never, been dealt with, then I know to avoid that, and we can start selecting the art. And also it kind of brings a bit more equality in, because it means that organizations then have to feel like they've got to work for, they don't have a monopoly ultimately. You know what I mean? If they have bad experiences, it will come back to bite them. If they treat artists badly, it will affect, and people will see it. But at the moment, it's a very quiet environment. And even for me, who feels relatively vocal, you're meeting up with another organization now who you want to work with, and they say, oh yeah, you did this project with X, Y, or Z, how was it? And a lot of the time you have to lie, because a lot of the directors know each other. A lot of the arts is quite a small, everyone knows everyone. And it's easy to blackball people, or it's easy to be like, oh, I don't know, mate, this might be your friend, or you might know them or something. So it takes that personal element out of it. Do you know what I mean? This kind of portal is something that I think would be quite helpful, and be good for all actually. So transparency ultimately, and there we go. That's it. I'll end it now.